Keys lock is a feature which allows you to easily compose or perform using only notes which are harmonically related to what scaler is playing. When enabled, Keys lock will automatically transpose all incoming MIDI notes to match your current scale or chords. To enable Keys lock, click on the Keys lock button above the keyboard. Then you can choose from one of several different Keys lock profiles. The first profile, Scale Notes Mapped, will automatically transpose all out-of-scale notes. Given we have the C major scale selected, when I play the note C, we hear the note C, because the note C is part of the C major scale. When I play a note outside of the C major scale, such as C sharp, that note is transposed to the nearest in-scale note, in this case C. So no matter what key we play on the keyboard, we always hear a note from the C major scale. If we choose a different scale, such as the F major scale, the same principle applies, but now we're only hearing notes from the F major scale. The next Keys lock mode, called Scale Notes Only, works in a very similar way, except it simply mutes the out-of-scale notes. So with the C major scale selected, playing the note C produces the note C, but playing an out-of-scale note, such as C sharp, produces no note at all. So this profile simply prevents out-of-scale notes from being played, rather than transposing them to an in-scale note. The next mode, Scale White Keys, maps all of the notes from the currently selected scale to the white keys across the keyboard, starting from the note C. Coincidentally, this is what the C major scale is anyway, so you won't notice any difference with the C major scale selected. With a different scale selected, however, such as the F major scale, all the notes from the F major scale are still mapped to these same notes. So now when I play the note C, we actually hear the note F. We can see the note F being highlighted on the keyboard whenever the note C is played, indicating that that's the actual note we're hearing. And the rest of the white keys, from C upwards, will play the remaining notes from the F major scale. The rest of the Keys lock modes, which start with the name Chord, all work based on the last played chord rather than your selected scale. For example, the Chord Notes Keys lock mode maps the notes of the keyboard to play the notes of the currently selected chord. In order to select a chord, we first have to bind one of Scaler's sections by clicking the Bind button on the right. With section C bound, as we have here, we can use the black keys in the lower octave of the keyboard to select one of the 4 chords on our main track. This black key selects our first chord, which is C major. So now all of the white keys on the keyboard will only play the notes of the C major triad chord. These are labelled on the keyboard as 1, 2, 3, 4. This particular C major chord was taken from one of the coloured variants of one of Scalar 3's included chord sets, and uses a custom voicing, hence we're seeing 4 notes available here as opposed to the 3 you'd expect from a regular C major triad. Then the chord notes start again. And this same pattern repeats across every octave of the keyboard, starting at the note C. This way, no matter how complicated the chord is, wherever you find the note C, you'll know that always triggers the root note of the chord. The second bound note triggers the second chord in section C, which is an F major 7. This chord consists of 4 notes, but again we're using a custom voicing variant of this chord, so the chord notes profile gives us access to 5 playable notes. And as before, the pattern starts again at the next C octave note. The next Keys lock profile, Chord Extensions, takes into account both the last played chord as well as the currently selected scale. As with the previous profile, first we need to select a chord by playing one of our trigger notes, so let's trigger our first C major chord. Now, just as before, the white keys on the keyboard starting from the note C are mapped to the notes of this C major chord. However, unlike the chord notes keys lock profile, we're no longer limited to just those 3 chord notes. The rest of the white keys from this note upwards will trigger the remaining chord extension notes, such as the 7th, 9th, 11th, and 13th. So across all of the white keys, we do eventually hear all of the notes of the C major scale, except the notes are organized from the perspective of a chord rather than a linear scale. Then, as with the previous keys lock profile, this same pattern of notes starts again from the next C note. So we know wherever we see the note C, that will always produce the root note of our chord. Now if we trigger a different chord, such as this F major 7 chord, as you'd expect, now the white keys on the keyboard are mapped to the extended notes of this F major 7 chord. But keep in mind that these extensions are based on our selected scale, in this case C major. So this keys lock profile won't add any additional notes to this chord outside of the C major scale. To illustrate this further, let's select the F major scale. As indicated by the blue highlights on the keyboard, unlike the C major scale, the F major scale includes the note B flat. So now if we trigger our C major chord, with the F major scale selected, you'll now see that the extended chord notes available to us via this keys lock profile include the note B flat. This gives us more of a dominant 7th flavor, like you might associate with the Mixolydian mode. So just keep in mind that the extensions available to us via this keys lock profile do take into account the currently selected scale in addition to the last triggered chord. And finally, the last keys lock profile available to us is called Chord Scales. This is a brand new keys lock profile included in Scalar 3. It works on a similar principle to the dynamic scale system seen on the Explore page. Whenever we trigger a chord using these bound notes, the scaler is selecting the closest matched scale to this chord. With this keys lock profile activated, the notes from that scale are mapped to the white keys across the keyboard, just like we saw in the scale white notes mode. So when we trigger a C major chord, the white keys across the keyboard starting at the note C produce the C major scale. Now if we trigger an F major chord, now those same white keys are mapped to the F major scale. So whenever we trigger a new chord, these white keys will always update to play the notes of a scale related to that chord.